And we are live with episode number 69 of Empty the Bench. Tom Albano, Nick Fodera, Nick Morgasen, as always. Gentlemen, quite a bit of a week per se in sports. And we actually a little bit of a crazy day here because we actually have a special guest for the first time in a while. Somebody who's going to be joining us for the first time ever mid-show.
Yes.
So, we've got someone you know before because we've had him on a couple of times. He's a friend of the show.
If you remember us from the Unspoken days, they would know.
Yeah, and actually, I know this guy because when I interned at SiriusXM, I got to meet him there. Actually, I don't know if he'll remember. I don't know if he'll remember me, but we met when I was at SiriusXM.
So it's a little bit of a weird week because we thought we were going to start the show one way, and then the whole bunch of crazy stuff popped out.
Well, so here is the first breaking news of. I don't know if you want to call it breaking news. It is, I guess, about 6-7 hours ago on social media, we find out that Hank Aaron, who was with the Braves organization, I think for 23 or 24 seasons, officially passed away at the age of 86. And I don't know about you guys, but I was a little shocked. Would you guys say so?
Shocked that he had passed away, or shocked?
I wouldn't say shocked. I mean, 86 is.
I mean, he was 86. God bless him. But you know what? It seems like when guys like that pass away, it seems impossible because these people were so much larger than the sport they played in. They ceased to become athletes and become legends. Especially considering that Hank Aaron was the home run king until Bonds broke it. And
in some people's eyes, due to the steroid controversy, he still is.
Well, and that's the big discussion I've been hearing on sports talk radio around the country is it's Hank Aaron. And you know what? I agree with all the, I don't know if you want to call them old-fashioned or traditional media who covers Major League Baseball. Barry Bonds is not the home run leader. I'm sorry. Throw tomatoes at me, throw eggs at me. I don't care. Barry Bonds didn't do this clean. Hank Aaron did this clean for like 24 seasons.
I think Barry Bonds is the home run leader because of the whole steroid thing, and you guys know my beliefs about the whole steroid scandal. But I think Hank Aaron kind of exemplifies a home run king and a baseball legend more than Barry Bonds does.
Oh, yeah. And we've had this discussion in pre-show meetings that we're trying to figure out what's considered good for the Hall of Fame. And that's another story we'll get to. But I just want to make the point. Is character taken into effect? Hank Aaron had the best character when it came to representing the sport of Major League Baseball.
And if you remember something...
Considering what he went through.
I was going to say, and as much as Barry Bonds is the home run king, also all the stuff that Hank Aaron had to go through while he was chasing Babe Ruth, all the death threats, all the racism, Barry Bonds didn't really have to deal with that because everyone kind of assumed that Barry Bonds was going to break Hank Aaron's record. And while Hank Aaron was working his way up, it was a completely different time in the United States.
Well, we're talking about a time where black athletes, not just Major League Baseball, but black athletes in general, couldn't have the same equal representation in sports as a white athlete. And that was a major problem. Like you said, death threats. People didn't want him breaking Babe Ruth's record. And now look where we are. We're in a much different representation today where black athletes are now getting a lot closer to the equal representation that they deserve to have.
But we're getting closer, but there's still a bit more of a ways to go. And Hank Aaron was one of the first people to actually really tackle that and make that a part of, not wanting to tackle that, but needing to have to do that because he faced it every day. You can't ignore it.
Right. And it's unfortunate. I think he took the Moderna vaccine. And unfortunately, and you have to stay from a standpoint, he was taking the vaccine to make a point to everybody else that you have to take the vaccine because we need to get everybody healthier during this COVID virus. And it was just unfortunate that he happened to pass away after taking it.
It is unfortunate, but you know what? 86. I mean, he is a legend for a reason, and to live to that age it's definitely a blessing, and the sports world is definitely blessed from having him having been in it and played for the Braves as long as he did.
And if you go to and we'll move on to the next story, but I just want to make a point. If you go to our social media pages, I posted a big group photo. I shared it with the guys in our group chat yesterday.
And I think that's what devastates me more. It's the fact that we've lost Hank Aaron, we lost Tommy Lasorda. Like, we're losing a lot.
Don Sutton.
We're losing
Al Kaline. Yeah.
We're losing a lot of these legends of the game.
Lou Brock, Bob Gibson. I can go on. There was many over the last 2020, 2021. 2021's not off to a good start. I mean,
I know it sucks. Well, some of those guys you said stretch into 2020, and 2020, what needs to be said for that year?
What needs to be said about that dumpster fire?
I mean, not only that, I mean, not that this is sports, but unfortunate Larry King passed away this morning. And like, we're seeing the legends pass away, and it's just, it's an unfortunate time in the world. Let's just leave it at that. So, all right, let's move on to
a controversy that I can't believe we're talking about. And by the way, somebody that I think commented on our post, not in the comments now, but like when we were first announcing this episode. How appropriate that episode 69, nice,
is.
Well, we're talking about this story.
Penis gate. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a gate you open with your genitals. It is the unfortunate nomenclature. I can't believe we have to talk about this, but again, it's neat. Again, the Mets had me fooled for a bit, didn't they, this offseason? Because you know what? You go around spending money like a drunken sailor on leave and getting Francisco Lindor and getting all these people, and you started to get me to think, you know what? This is something that there might actually be a sea change. Well, it might not actually be the same old Mets for the first time in a while. Well, and you know what happens? The same old Mets come rolling back into town.
Well, let me say one thing, and I think Tom really nailed this to a T when we were in our pre-show meetings, was that the Mets went through a firing situation with Carlos Beltran last offseason due to his cheating BS.
Second offseason in a row, they have to fire somebody they just hired for personnel before the season even begins, before a game is even played.
So, well, context is necessary. Let's get into the short version of what happened.
So let's tell the story.
No pun intended.
Yeah, really. There's no short point to this story anyway. But let's talk about how Jared Porter, the ex-GM of the New York Mets, has, and you can see it on our little graphic, Penis Gate, basically sent out 62 or 63 different text messages of the lewd nature to...
Well, yeah, they were of increasingly lewd nature to a female journalist.
Former
female journalist. And a female former journalist, I should say, because she's not dead. So, those text messages were increasingly lewd and escalating to a picture where that he says is not his, but it's of an erect penis. And okay, so this constitutes a sexual harassment, and it actually traumatized the poor lady so much she had to leave. She left journalism.
I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt with a bit of a funny comment at this point, but you know what? A penis is a penis.
I mean, it doesn't really matter whose it belongs to.
I mean, no, but I don't understand this. And Nick, you say this every single time when we have a story about this. Basically, watch where your penis is.
I hate to say, the curb your dog signs.
Yes.
I think we need to have signs around the workplace. Curb your penis.
And we're not laughing at this.
Curb your penis.
Let me clarify one thing.
Believe me, we're not making fun of what the guy.
I think we're making fun of Porter and the Mets more.
He's First of all, I'm angry more than anything else because how did this happened in 2016 when he was a member of the Cubs?
Yes,
when he was working in the Cubs front office. How is it that the Cubs did not know about this?
Well, wait, okay, that's my point here. I told the guys an alleged story that came out that the Cubs, someone on the behalf of the female reporter went to the Cubs and told the story, and apparently someone in the Cubs front office said, I don't want to take sides. What do you mean you don't want to take sides? Are you kidding me? You don't want to take sides?
There's sides when it comes to blatant sexual harassment? Excuse me?
Well, actually, wait a minute. We got to be a little careful here, as Tom would say, because
Alleged sexual harassment.
we don't know the full story. We just know from the great reporting of different sources what's going on.
I said, well, let's talk about that, because I was going to say this story obviously came. Well, this was originally made in 2016. I think we were saying
2016, 2017. Yeah.
And it was held until now, and everyone is crediting Jeff Passan because he's ESPN's guy. His name was on the byline, but he only did at most, he only did at most 50%. At most 50%. The rest of that story, that's Kimes.
Right. So Mina Kimes, who's done a lot of great work at ESPN as an investigative reporter before she became part of the NFL brigade at ESPN, which is huge. And it was just an unbelievable story. And I think we'll get back to it because I see that our guest is waiting in the.
Okay, so
but just let me make one more point. That basically, Mina Kimes and Jeff Passan worked hard on this story, and it went from being we're trying to make a story be known to a clusterfuck of doing the report. We'll come back to it though.
When we get back to it, I think we need to have a discussion on like a journalist's role of like the role of a journalist when it comes to news and timing and everything, plus the ethics of all that. But our guest is here, Zig Fracassi, SiriusXM NFL Radio. Zig, how you doing today?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
It's great to hear from you again, Zig. It's been a while.
Yeah.
How you doing? Everything good?
Everything is good. Thank you.
How are you doing during this?
Well, considering the circumstances,
I'm not going to lie. It's challenging. It seems like not only with my hosting duties, I also have the updates on SiriusXM Sports, and it seems like every other story is COVID-19 related. This guy came down with it, or the four Capitals, including Alex Ovechkin. So I almost feel like a medical doctor at times, and it can be mind-numbing, to be perfectly honest with you. But we're hanging through it, and glad that we actually have sports to talk about.
All right, so let's get into the whole NFL playoff situation. I want to rewind a little bit and talk about the Chiefs. What was your thoughts on the concussion protocol with Mahomes and Chad Henne coming in and saving the day?
Something out of Central Casting to say. And the thing about it wasn't like a helmet-to-helmet hit or anything like that. It just seemed as though when Patrick was being brought down, like his neck bent awkwardly. And then, I'm no doctor, but I'm thinking, gosh, that probably disrupted the blood flow to the head. And then when he got up, it was like, you drank a lemon slush too fast. I'm not trying to minimize it. It's just that effect, like, where am I and all that. So, that to me, guys, is the value of having a veteran backup quarterback. And Chad Henne wasn't spectacular. He did throw the interception. So let's preface that. But he also had that great run on 3rd and 14 to set up the 4th and 1. And Andy Reid had his, let's say, testosterone the size of Missouri and made that call to Tyreek on that sprint right option. And I thought it was fabulous. And, again, it just goes to show the NFL and the Chiefs acted proactively and right to keep Patrick in protocol. And then he was released from it yesterday. But again, Chad Henne, like your graphic even says, it saved the day. And again, it goes to show the value of that veteran quarterback. Chad knows his role at this point of his career, and he did his part to help the Chiefs advance to their 3rd straight championship game.
Now, before we move on to my question, a little bit of a follow-up about that game in particular. Obviously, there was the call when Rashard Higgins fumbled at the 1-yard line, had the touchback and everything. There was the controversy about a possible missed helmet to helmet. What are your thoughts on that situation? Do you think that ultimately, it cost the Browns the game?
Yeah, and we were talked about this on our post-game coverage on NFL radio, and Brad Hopkins, who of course had a very fine career in the National Football League as a tackle with the Tennessee Titans. He hates that rule, period. But again, it's part of the deal where if the ball is fumbled through the end zone, then it gets to the 20 and the other team gets possession. Sorensen's not a dirty player. So to me, that's just so, how would you say, bang, bang of a play. I mean, he's trying to lower himself to make the tackle. Now, did the replay ever conclusively show that his helmet hit Higgins. Again,
it seemed like the CBS broadcast, I think it was, they were saying that maybe a helmet to helmet might have been missed.
Yeah, and if that was the case, it's not reviewable, if I believe what Gene Steratore said. So, but they could have been penalized. Sorensen could have been penalized for leading with the helmet. So again, but that just happened so bloody fast, and maybe that's something now that they need to consider reviewing, is if a defender is deemed lowering his helmet to initiate the contact, then maybe the Browns retain possession, they cash it in. We're talking a different game. Yeah. Although, Belichick wants everything reviewed. But then if that's the case, we may have 5 or 6 hour games. I don't know if we all want to sit through that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on back to the Mahomes and the concussion protocol. Obviously, as you said, he just got cleared yesterday. Do you think he may have been moving a little too fast in the different stages, or you think Mahomes is just, that he was just fine?
You mean what, practicing this week? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like how quickly he moved through. Like, was it just you think he's fine, or do you think I'd say they were just really trying to get it through?
Well, actually, I ran the clip of Mahomes during one of my updates yesterday, and he actually had cognition of what happened, because he says as soon as I laid there a little bit, because I knew Andy was going to go for it on 4th and 1. So I wanted to give Chad some time to, get ready and all that. So he may have had some form of, remembrance and cognition then. So just to go through the proper protocols, again, Rick Burkholder is one of the premier trainers in the National Football League. From what I can tell, the Chiefs have one of the best medical staffs in the NFL. So my hunch is the Chiefs handled this as well as can be expected. We're talking about Mahomes and the concussion. Remember, he banged up that big toe, his left big toe in that game too. So we may be looking at that as, has that gotten any better in the past week? Does that hinder his mobility as he goes against the Bills on Sunday?
So it's funny that you should mention that, Zig, because assuming that I want to see if we could try to break this down a little bit.
Sure.
So I need to ask, assuming that Mahomes does play and it's Chiefs versus Bills, who do you like? I mean, I know the Bills haven't been this close to the Super Bowl since I was in diapers. These two weren't even born. So could this be could they actually pull off the upset?
And I was probably in my mid-30s, and I probably had about 30, 40 pounds less weight. So
age is just a number, Zig.
Yes, and being from that area originally, it's a real shot in the arm for the Bills. They do have a passionate fan base. They put up with a lot of pretty bad football over the last 20 to 25 years. Mahomes will play. There's no question about that. The thing that concerns me, though, and again, he's been so good throughout the season, but Josh Allen, I mean, this is his first time now in the AFC Championship game. How does he handle all the pressure? Will the Bills even be able to run the ball, at least to keep things honest against Kansas City? That remains to be seen. I'm concerned about Mahomes' foot, but again, this game at Arrowhead, KC in there for the 3rd straight year. It might be a little much to overcome for Buffalo. And let's not forget the first meeting. It was a 3-point game at the half, but then Kansas City played keep away for the last 30 minutes. If Kansas City does that again, then I don't think Buffalo has a chance. So slight lean towards KC to get back to the Super Bowl.
So in terms of the other matchup, so we have Brady and Brees. We have the Saints and the Bucks. So we here. I think you could share. I'm sorry, Brady and Rodgers, but sorry.
Yeah, them two. They're not bad.
Quarantine drain. So we have here a Clash of the Titans. I mean, pretty much. I think it's pretty much undisputed that Rodgers is going to be the MVP here. But
right.
I mean, Brady and Lambeau. I mean, Lambeau's always been a tough play for away teams. I mean, do you think the Packers could do it?
And AB is out. Sorry to bring that up. But
no, that's a good point, Antonio Brown. But then they still have Godwin. They still have Gronk. They still have Brate. So they have, and Mike Evans. So they still have their fair share of weapons. Couple of things. Again, the pressure is clearly on Green Bay, because to me, what Brady's been able to do with this franchise, he helped make them legit, for one thing. So the fact that they're even there is pretty remarkable. And what might even be more remarkable is if they win, they will be the first team ever to truly be a home team in the Super Bowl. Now, it's happened a couple of times where, like after the 79 season, the 80s Super Bowl, the Rams played the Steelers. That was in Pasadena. So that's not quite LA, but it's close enough. And then a few years later, the 49ers played the Dolphins in Palo Alto, which is close to San Francisco, but it wasn't the true home. So this would be the first time ever you'd have a true home game. But getting back to the point here, the pressure is clearly on Rodgers. Aaron has had a terrific year, and I agree with you. He's going to be the MVP. The thing that concerns me now is, you want the game at home. Now this is the time. And Green Bay's been stingy with the turnovers, which is good. But I just saw a stat here. Tampa has over 120, I think it's 128 points this year off turnovers. And I think they have 27 in the playoffs this year, 21 last week against the Saints. So Green Bay better not turn the ball over, because Tampa Bay has got that defense. They can cash it in rather quickly. And then, of course, the first meeting, Green Bay, I thought they were going to roll them 10-0 after the first. Then Tampa scores 28 unanswered in the second, 38 unanswered overall. So what did they learn from that first game? Did Rodgers watch more film of this? Tampa looked like they threw different looks, different disguises at him. Having said all that, I'd rather be the home team in the cold. I think this is Rodgers' time to prove himself. Weird to say that, but again, I think in terms of getting to another Super Bowl where Brady's already been there and done that, probably a slight lean towards Green Bay over Tampa. Although it'd be interesting if the Bills and the Bucks both got there. The Bills get to see their tormentor again, this time in a different uniform. How would that be for a storyline?
Finally, a chance to slay the dragon.
Well, so I want to follow up. I want to follow up with one thing on the Packers. We've heard the frustration going on between Rodgers and the organization. If they get to the Super Bowl and Aaron wins, does this stop that bad blood between the organization? Because he's been talking about whether he might have to leave for another organization. Like, do you think that would kind of clear that up?
That was probably prevalent in the offseason. I'm not sure it's that way now. I mean, if you've seen some of these games, there have been sideline shots of Aaron and Matt LaFleur, like in, pretty pally conversations and hugs and everything like that. I think, LaFleur's kind of grown on Rodgers and vice versa. Now, does Aaron still feel hurt that, they drafted the kid Love in the first round? Well, you know what? They drafted him to replace Brett Favre. So I think he's got that, that stigma about him. Maybe, the kid doesn't play for another couple of years. I think that stuff's kind of been overblown. I think now the matter of hand is getting focused for this game and playing a legendary quarterback in his Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think that's over with. Although it'd be interesting to see, we've already had Phillip Rivers ride off into the sunset. There might be a chance Ben does. If Aaron Rodgers gets to and wins the Super Bowl, does he ride off into the sunset? So those are some things, obviously, for another day in time. But I think that stigma, that sort of alleviation between LaFleur and Rodgers, I think now that's overblown. I mean, they've gotten to the championship game 2 years in a row here, so they got to be doing something right.
So speaking of bad blood, an organization not in the playoffs right now, the Texans. So Deshaun Watson and the owner McNair having words, not being able to agree on a coach. We have text messaging and phone tag going back and forth. Do you see Watson moving on, and what do you see going on with the Texans organization?
Boy, they're a poop show of all poop shows right now. My gosh. I mean, this was a team. This was a playoff team not even that long ago, but then they decided to, make Bill O'Brien the GM and head coach. And then he makes that ridiculously bad trade with the Dolphins. They give up those number one picks for Tunzel, who I think is an average tackle. I don't think he's Orlando Pace or anybody of that ilk. So
the answer to a trivia question.
yeah. And the thing is, now there's all this circulation that Deshaun wants out and that he may want to come to New York. Well, if you're the Jets, I could see the thumbs up there. Well, I'm telling you this right now. If that happens, they better consider Texans better at least ask for 3 number 1 draft picks and Sam Darnold just to get to the table. So we'll see if that ultimately happens. But I think in the final analysis, Caserio, the new GM, wants to build around Deshaun Watson. And if they do wind up hiring Bieniemy, which I think is a reasonable possibility, because from what I'm told, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes are pretty tight, and Patrick raves about Bieniemy. Notice Houston hasn't hired their head coach yet, which may be coincidence that Leslie Frazier, also the Bills' defensive coordinator, is still in the mix, as is Eric Bieniemy. If they hire Bieniemy, he stays put in Houston, I think.
I just want to follow up with one thing.
Sure.
Which is the whole PR situation going on with the Texans, and they hired a whole, I don't know what you want to call it, marketing or whatever situation to try to find a coach. What do you make of that whole situation?
I think, again, they're a team that seems to be in a little bit of disarray, and I think a lot of that's because of the son running the team now. Cal McNary believes his name. Of course, Robert was a guy that seemed to have this aura of doing things with class as a gentleman and all this, and now you got the kid running the team. And, I mean, let's not forget, they also had that fiasco with the young PR lady who, from what I could tell, was one of the best at what she did, and now she doesn't fit the culture. What the hell does that mean? So you had that. J.J. Watt seems to be disgruntled. He may want out. I wouldn't be surprised he winds up with his brothers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They may wind up working a deal at that particular point. The Texans are a mess, and like I said, now if you trade Watson, that signals to me that Caserio has got a major rebuild on his hands. And they also, like you mentioned, hiring firms and all this to kind of clean up the mess. I'm not sure Houston's a preferred destination for anybody at this particular point. Obviously, it's a big city. You've had some recent success with the Astros, but the James Harden thing with the Rockets, you never knew what happened there. So is Houston, the cliche from the day, with NASA, Houston, we have a problem. There's definitely a problem with the Houston Texans.
He knows the shuttle's exploding when he sees it. So,
yeah.
In terms of that, so in terms of quarterbacks, now that Phillip Rivers has officially decided to call it quits, I'm not here to argue his bona fides, because he's definitely got the stat sheet to back up a trip to Canton, maybe in a couple of years. But I want to know, Zig, since Phillip Rivers started off his career getting traded from the Giants to the Chargers on draft day, and I want to know, do you really think that the Giants would have been able to win those 2 Super Bowls with Phillip Rivers?
Well, that's hard to say. Because obviously they developed a style and an offense around Eli. So I suppose, then the logic would be, well, would Rivers have been the same quarterback? We don't know that for sure. So from a hypothetical standpoint, I suppose, you look at it, would they have had to alter the offense too? Would they have gone more even pass heavy? Because at least with the Giants, with Eli, you had a component of a running game to go with too. So that's kind of hard to say. You mentioned, Nick, in terms of the Hall of Fame, the stats and the way that the writers, the Pro Football Hall of Fame writers, vote nowadays would say yes, he gets in. I was doing updates yesterday during Mad Dog Russo's update, and he was talking with Phil Simms about Phillip Rivers, and the stats are sure there. And maybe playing that year in the championship game without an ACL was his moment. Because, he gutted through that against the Patriots. So full marks to that. And he did win a fair share of games but there was never, to me, he didn't get to a Super Bowl. He didn't have that sort of signature drive that elevated his team. So if I'm voting, I would say no. I think Roethlisberger and Brees are probably more Hall of Famers than Phillip Rivers is. But again, there's also distinction that not everyone belongs in. And just because you hang around a long time and pile a lot of stats, you can go through any of the Sports Hall of Fames guys and really start looking at things. The way they vote nowadays, if you hang around long enough and put up the numbers, you're in. Again, class act, and I hope he does great coaching his high school kids and all that. But if it's me, I lean towards Phillip Rivers as the Hall of the very good and not Canton. But again, that's just me.
Speaking of, Drew Brees obviously losing to Brady and the Bucs last week. We have this nice moment after the game where Brees and Brady hugging, Brady throwing around
was
with
great,
Brees'
wasn't it?
kids. Yeah, it was absolutely heartwarming. Is this really the last time you think we've seen Brees on a football field? Because we had the reports, but we don't have the confirmation from him. It's just, I'll think about it.
The Hall of Fame coach Marv Levy, I think, once said it best. If you're thinking about retirement, you probably already have. And just the way that Brees, and Brad and I were talking about this on the show last week. When Brees was walking off the field, he did the look back. Yeah. And usually when you do the look back, it means I'm going to miss this. So, and then like you talked about, guys, with the moments, I think it was fabulous. And even his wife said he played with some other injuries that maybe people didn't know about. Everybody knew about the fractured ribs and, the lung issue and everything like that. But apparently he was dealing with a foot issue. His arm was never the strength to begin with. So, here's a couple of factors here. One, he already has his next gig lined up with NBC Sports. He'll probably wind up doing Notre Dame games. And number two, the Saints, pardon the analogy here, but they're in a devilish cap situation. They're I think, near $100 million in the red. So you're going to have some major purging going on, especially if the cap is significantly lower now because of the revenue issues because of COVID and everything. So does Brees want to be part of a rebuild? My hunch says no. All these injuries, and not only what he accomplished on the field, but off the field, especially after Katrina. New Orleans wasn't a place to be after Hurricane Katrina, but then he comes in, Sean Payton is there. All of a sudden, they start to win. They did get to the Super Bowl and win it. And also, what Brees did in that New Orleans community, I think it's time to ride off in the sunset if I'm Drew Brees.
Talking to Zig Fracassi of SiriusXM Sports, also here on NFL Network Radio. I guess the topic, because the one that's up on the screen now, I'm the disgruntled Jets fan.
There group. It is, Robert Salah. I see it. Good job, guys.
So, yes.
Yeah.
I'm the disgruntled Jets fan. They're the disgruntled Giants fan.
Tom and I are both Giants fans. We like to clown on him, although we've been clowned recently.
Yeah, so Robert Salah.
Battle of the clowning, yes.
So Robert Salah being hired as the new Jets head coach away from the 49ers. And I see him go on Michael Kay's show in New York, and he kind of makes some partial guarantees to trying to bring a championship to New York. Well, first of all, what do you think of Robert Salah?
A lot of energy. I'll tell you what. I mean, that guy just keeps himself in like some ridiculously good shape. He could probably still play, for goodness sakes. What he did with that San Francisco defense, especially this year, Sherman was out. I mean, they lost DeForest Buckner in that trade with the Colts, a host of other injuries, and they still played hard. They still played competitive. And he was a guy that's been on the ascend for quite a while. And he also avoided answering the question directly about Sam Darnold, basically deferring it to Joe Douglas, the GM, about what they're going to do with the quarterback situation. Again, if you want to talk about winning the press conference, I guess he did that. Only time's going to tell, but I think, the fact that it's not a recycled guy, it's a fresh guy with some fresh ideas, some fresh blood for a team that could definitely use some. I'm on board with it. Again, his credentials speak for themselves. But again, do these coordinators ultimately make great head coaches? Only time will tell on that.
So in terms of again more new head coaches, the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni, and upgrade, not an upgrade, considering where we were with Doug Peterson. I mean, did the Eagles make the right move here?
At this point, I think it's reports. I don't know if they've officially announced it, but to your point, well, look at the tie-in here. Nick Sirianni worked for Frank Reich in Indianapolis. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator of the Eagles the year they got to the Super Bowl, which is when Carson Wentz had his best year before, unfortunately, suffering that devastating knee injury in Los Angeles against the Rams. So you can see the connection there. And Sirianni, from what I'm told, has a really good reputation with quarterbacks. And in Philadelphia, he must have convinced Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, that he's the one that can fix Carson Wentz because he has an albatross of a contract and they're not going to be able to move him. And to me, if you want to really look at it from semantics, maybe Wentz won over Doug Peterson, which is why Peterson's no longer the coach there. So Sirianni's got a good reputation. Again, the right tie-in is unmistakable. We'll see if that ultimately works for Philadelphia.
Wait, so one follow-up there. What did you think of the whole Eagles situation on national television where they sat their players? Did you see that as a kind of a poor move?
The Philadelphia tank job.
Oh, you mean the Nate Sudfeld thing? I felt bad for that kid. I really did, because he was like kind of the unintended victim of all the hate and everything like that. And he just did what he was told. And again, was Doug Peterson kind of trying to screw the Giants? Maybe so. But at the same time, if you're the Giants, don't lose 10 games.
You're very right. But do you think it was maybe a little slap in the face to the integrity of the game that happened on Sunday Night Football, Week 17?
You could make that point, and also because of the fact that if you really think Jalen Hurts is your quarterback of the future, then you play him out. So I could see both sides of this. Now, I'm not trying to avoid it, but you can also see the logic of both. But again, it did have sort of that version of not fixed, but it just didn't look weird. Although, if you go back and look at the stats, he only had 32 yards passing up until that point. And you think about it this way, if you're trying to win the game, in hockey, if you get a 3-0 lead, the other team changes the goalie and turns the game around. What happens there if then Sudfeld leads the team down, they win the game, then that looks like a move of genius.
True. Very true. All right. So 2 last things for me, kind of a double question about the Steelers. So first of all, they just announced that they had signed Dwayne Haskins. Obviously, we know the trouble that Haskins was going through in Washington leading to his release. So do you think he can turn it around, or is it just too weird of a move considering the locker room culture of the Steelers and everything that's been talked about?
I think it's a decent move for them. And it also tells me that Ben might be a little bit closer to the retirement stage. So at this particular point, you would have Mason Rudolph. I don't know if Duck Dynasty is still on that team. Duck Hodges. So
Duck Hodges, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
now I'm going to call him that forever.
There you go, Duck Dynasty. So now you got Haskins, a former first-round pick, still young enough. And you mentioned that Steelers culture. Tomlin, for what he is, seems to be a player's coach. I don't mind the move. Although, do I expect him to be the next Ben Roethlisberger? No. But at the same time, they're going to have a new offensive coordinator there. Just on a side note, I think they need to fix the ground game. Might want to start looking at Pouncey's replacement, maybe some little U-Haul there on the offensive line. But no, I don't mind the move. The kid needs to grow up. There's no question about that. So to me, he needs to go in there. Yes, sir. No, sir. If he needs to mop the floors, go to Dunkin' Donuts for donuts, whatever he needs to do, he just needs to adhere to everything, be a good guy, earn your keep, and then, hey, God forbid something happens, then you go out and shock the world. So I don't mind the move. Again, I don't. I think I do believe in redemption, and I think the kid does have some skill, but he just needs to grow up a little bit, and that's what got him into trouble in Washington.
And one last thing for me, we talked about the cap situation before in New Orleans. Pittsburgh, even they are in a little bit of a questionable cap situation. I believe isn't Juju and Connor free agents?
Free agents, yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger. I believe we were just going over.
I think it was like a 40 million plus dead cap number. So
yeah, and they have they're projected to be 20 million over the cap with 15 free agents. So what do you think is going to happen with Pittsburgh? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? And do you think they're going to remain, a winning and playoff team?
Well, I think their defense, even though they struggled the last, 5 or 6 games, I still think there's components there for a good defense. And like I mentioned, if they go out and get J.J. Watt, then I think that really is a nice add for them. Offensively, I think that's where the work needs to happen. Like I mentioned, they're going to have a new coordinator there. You bring in Haskins, obviously, to create some competition, which tells me that maybe Ben is leaning towards retirement. So if that's the case, maybe you have another quarterback, you draft one, try to groom him along. Connor's been a real great story, although unfortunately the production hasn't been there the last year or so because of various injuries. I mentioned Pouncey, I think, might need to be replaced. You need some enhancements on that offensive line. Will they give a second contract to Juju? That remains to be seen because Pittsburgh historically doesn't give those second contracts out. They've got a beast in Claypool, kid out of Notre Dame, so they're set there. And what is it? Vance McDonald, I think, recently retired too.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who has been serviceable. So the Steelers, if they're going to do a lot of off-season shopping, guys, it's going to be on the offensive side of the ball.
And Zig, we really appreciate you coming on, giving us your time. But actually, what's your Super Bowl matchup? What do you have prediction-wise there?
Ooh, wow. Let me flip a coin. If I had one, I'd flip it. I'm leaning towards a rematch of Super Bowl I. Green Bay Packers, Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
I think that'll be great. Mahomes versus Rodgers. Everyone wants to see
State Farm Bowl.
Not bad. Those commercials are going to be interesting.
There you go. State Farm may buy out the whole lot, for goodness sake.
Zig, thanks for coming on with us. We really appreciate all your time and spending time with us today.
Nick, Thomas, thanks for having me on. Definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, Zig.
We'll see you later, Zig.
Thanks, Zig. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Boy.
So that was great. We had a good time with Zig Fracassi, SiriusXM Sports, SiriusXM NFL Network Radio. He actually will be on at 5 o'clock. So if you're looking for your NFL coverage, you can check him out.
Look no further than him. It's the poop show of all poop shows.
That was a good
all
one.
right, so we got to move a little bit quicker because we spent.
So in terms of Jared Porter, I mean, you really, really screwed up not doing your due diligence with this.
By the way, this show is a walking circus when you have to go from the NFL playoffs to
this.
Yeah, it is. We're juggling here, but you really need to do your due diligence. That's all I'll say.
Well,
But
obviously,
it should not have happened.
Yeah, so one thing I'll say here is, first of all, well, I don't know if text messages like those show up on a background check. I would assume so, but I am not a human resources specialist. So,
well, here's my problem, okay? And I have a problem with a certain host here in New York. I think his name might be Craig, maybe. Is that his name?
I would assume his name is Craig. Yes. Hello, his name is Craig.
Hello, my name is Craig.
Hello, his name is Craig.
So I need to talk about this. I know we don't have a whole lot of time to discuss this, but so Craig Carton goes on FAN after he's been in jail for how long now? Like a year or two? I lost track.
Mm-hmm.
And basically craps all over Jeff Passan, saying he should have told the organization when he knew the story so that they could protect everybody in the organization. Now, journalist experts that are sitting next to me right now, okay? I'm going to ask this question, okay?
Well, hang on. Let me find an expert. All right. Well, since there's no expert, I'll have to sue it.
Okay. So let me ask.
As a journalist, he has no obligation to inform the organization. Whatsoever.
And that's my point here.
I was going to say, that's not the job of the journalist. The job of the journalist is only to report, not to go to the organization and go, and ask, you might want to see this.
Excuse me, sir. Would you mind talking about the penis we found?
Also,
that's like holding up a flyer at a baseball game. Oh, look!
Right.
Oh, look, a penis. I mean, come on.
Also, again, this goes back to the point that he is yelling at Passon for everything. This was not Passon's full reporting. This was Mina
Kimes. She should have been there with him.
And
she should have been there in his place.
Right. Well, here's the thing about Mina Kimes, in her decision to hold the story. Was it the wrong thing to do timing-wise for a controversy like that? I mean, that's something that we can debate about the responsibility, of a journalist. It makes me think of, when those old tweets came out for those players at the All-Star game for Major League Baseball a few years ago. Because, you're sitting on those tweets. Aren't they supposed to come out? Are they supposed to be on a background check?
Yeah, but
okay, no, because there's more point to it. But you also have to understand that there is also an ethics thing that, an ethics code that you take as a journalist. And if you break that ethics code, maybe you do the right thing legally, maybe you do the right thing timing wise for reporting, but you can be considered a pariah in this industry if you break ethics.
Yeah, but here's the issue. And I want to talk about Sandy, because I think this is a part of that ethics code you were talking about, which is, so he has his presser over Zoom on Facebook.
Are you talking about how he name drops the country?
Right. So he name drops the country of the woman, which she clearly stated in the story. I'm not giving my country, because she said her country has issues traditionally and culturally with what went down. So what does he do? He reveals the country.
Mets gonna Mets. That's all I'm gonna say.
Mets
and gonna hot take. Sandy Alderson needs to be fired. He needs to be fired and needs to be held accountable.
Hot take, karma will come back to bite the Mets. Lindor will not play up to that 1 year deal the 1 year left on his thing, and the Mets are going to miss the playoffs again.
Ouch.
Ooh.
But here's the deal. I think, and I'll go one step further here, George Springer didn't go to the Mets due to that whole situation. They lost him by $25 million.
And you have the richest in New York.
You have the richest owner in all of sports, worth over $14 billion, and he came out
to make his brain like he's in a strip club, and now all of a sudden you short him for $25 million.
He made an excuse and said, "We're not going to spend like drunken sailors." Wait a minute, what? You're telling me that you're not doing everything to make the point to make the Mets a better organization? That's bullshit.
Spend money to make money. Spend money to make money.
There's no cap in Major League Baseball. How many times have we had this conversation?
All right, so now we're talking about ethics and everything. Let's quickly move on to this story. So there was a story about how I think one of the Baseball Hall of Fame writers, I'm not sure who, but there was a report in the New York Post that there was one who asked the Baseball Writers Association of America that he wants to take his vote back and basically take Curt Schilling's name off of his list. He had elected Curt Schilling to the Baseball Hall of Fame, but after Curt Schilling made a tweet pretty much in support of the insurrection in DC, that, this writer, I forget who, wants to remove his name, and maybe there are
Mike Missinelli.
Mike Missinelli, thank you.
And if I go ahead.
As I say, and there may be a couple of more who want to rescind their votes.
Well, knowing the Post like I do, that was probably a larger point they were trying to make about some harebrained polemic about cancel culture, even though, Curt Schilling hasn't been canceled, nor is he trying to be. He probably should have. But still, I mean, this is... Go ahead, Nick. I'm going to wait.
The big issue with this whole situation is that you have a reputation, Curt Schilling, of being a political hack. I'm sorry. He's a political hack. From the standpoint of he had his career as an athlete. Then he's like, oh, shit, wait a minute. I don't have anything to do once my career is over. I'm going to start, and I don't know if you guys remember
that. Video game studio and then bankrupt it.
Right.
Well, wait, that's not the point I was making. The point I was making is that he went on to do politics because all of a sudden, I'm going to say allegedly because I don't know how true this is. Remember, he went off on the whole North Carolina situation with the gender neutral bathrooms.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, wasn't he a commentator for the Little League World Series and got fired for making something?
No, he worked for ESPN as an MLB analyst, and he got fired. He got fired because of the North Carolina incident. He made a statement about the gender neutral bathrooms, and ESPN said, hell no, out. Like,
especially considering that he likes to use it as a mounting point, a general point that conservatives are being silenced. Even though you're not being silenced because
but the question here is,
You just don't want to
First
face
of all-
any consequences when you screw up.
Well, this is this is more about the vote. So first of all, can you rescind your vote? Because remember, as I say, we can't get a clear answer, but it seems like the deadline for voting for the Hall of Fame would have been before the events of the insurrection had taken place.
I'm trying to find. There was a tweet that John Heyman put out that apparently the story got a little overblown. That you can't. There might not. I don't think you can actually rescind your vote.
You can't actually rescind it.
Well, that leads to my second question. Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame tends to only be about your
On-field
accomplishments
stuff,
on the field.
not character.
And originally, I would not have elected Curt Schilling even with the 3 World Series, but then we found he had like over 3,000 strike. He had one of the automatic numbers.
You're talking
basically.
about the plateaus. So 500 home runs, 3,000 hits,
3,000 strikeouts.
3,000 strikeouts, 300 wins. We're talking about plateaus. So he has 3 World Series also.
Right.
Then again, being in the Hall of Fame is a privilege, not a right.
Wait, I understood, but let me play the devil's advocate here, which is
Major League Baseball is the only Hall of Fame in which you can only be on the field. It's only about on the field stuff. The NFL, there's a character element. The NBA, there's a character element. Hockey Hall of Fame, there's a character element.
which doesn't make sense because you think in Major League Baseball everything is about character off the field. You see the guys working with the charity organizations. You see people doing things outside the sport for fans. Look at the All-Star Game festivities, usually when we're not in a COVID situation.
Well, I was going to say, Schilling's probably going to get in this year, but next year I think is going to be the big question. Because
I want to go back to something Nick said, though, which is in our pre-show meetings, and I'll let you finish that point, Tom, which is the whole character situation. If we're going to keep Curt Schilling out due to a character situation,
do we have to keep the steroid guy?
Well, no, not only that, but I think Nick mentioned the whole Astros cheating scandal also when it came to do we have to keep those guys out if they're up for the Hall of Fame, or should they be allowed to come back in the league? Or you can throw Pete Rose in there with the gambling.
My issue is going to be the reverse. If Schilling goes in, and then my concern about next year about like if Alex Rodriguez doesn't get in, but Big Papi does. I feel like
they all have to get in.
If Schilling and Big Papi get in, you have to put A-Rod, you have to put Bonds, you have to put Clemens. You have to.
The list goes on. You have to put Bagwell in there.
Bagwell.
Everybody. I mean, Major League Baseball, and this is the problem.
You can't pick and choose in these kind of situations.
This was back to a story I told the guys in pre-show meetings that back in 2003 and before, steroids were legal in Major League Baseball. There was no such thing as there's PED rules, and we're gonna slap you with the book if you are caught with PEDs. So now the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame is trying to make ethics rules when there was never any ethics to begin with.
Especially considering the Hall of Fame is full of bastards and racists and just general scumbags of every stripe.
All right, so let's talk about this story, which hasn't been really a lot of attention. But Adam Silver, remember how last week you guys talked about Charles Barkley and that whole mess of his comments?
You mean totally destroying the crap out of his comments because the man doesn't have a brain in his head?
Well, now apparently Adam Silver is considering getting the vaccines for these players because he wants to do basically a PSA style thing in which, because apparently there's been something about the vaccines. Nick, you might know about this more than I have, like that people are just not taking it. So he wants to make Silver wants to make a statement to take it.
There has been a historic amount of mistrust in the medical community, in the Black community, and it's just justified in a lot of ways because, again, that's pulling on the thread of a completely different sweater here.
Right.
People are a little bit more willing to take the vaccine than they were back in the summer, but I don't have the figures in front of me right now. But I mean, if you could get them to do a PSA to encourage people to get it because it's safe, you can. My concern is don't take it away from people who desperately need it.
That's the point.
That's the point that I was going to because
you can't do that. If you're on track for what you need.
Well, let me make one point here. So what Tom was saying and we started to talk about this last week when Tom was not here.
Oh, I posted a whole rant on it.
Oh yeah, and if you
Twitter.
go to Tom's Twitter account, you'll totally see that. And I think we retweeted it as well at ETB Sports. You can find it. But the whole situational issue here, and this is not just for the NBA, even though the NBA seems to be the one that's heave-ho on doing everything before everybody else. But if the NBA has the money, the NFL has the money, Major League Baseball has the money, all the major sports have the money. But if they jump the line with the billions of dollars that they have, and they're going to take the vaccine away from the, I don't know, as Nick would say, the doctors.
I will name the healthcare workers, the first responders, the essential workers, the elderly,
people
the
with
immunocompromised
conditions. I am one, so
if they do this, and I agree with Tom, so I'm just going to make the statement as well, which is if they jump the line and they pay the billions of dollars for the vaccine, the NBA will get eliminated from this show. I'm saying that right now.
I agree.
I agree that we've continued to cover them in the midst of some bad things. This is the line.
And no, I'm just saying, because you can argue about the PSA all you want, unused vaccines, and I can understand, but let's be real. Is this really about a PSA, or is this Adam Silver just realizing that he should have never left the bubble in the first place?
He should have never left the bubble. And
where have I heard that before?
Take it back. It's like,
where have I heard that statement before, that we should have never left the bubble?
Yeah, real. And consider also, by the way, I think he's on track for handling this worse than the NFL has, because there's a problem here. Major League Baseball this past season, they did everything geographically. There were only divisions. You only had cross divisions when playoffs came. The NHL right now, it's only divisional play. The NFL, they went on as normal, and it was really bad and everything. But at the very least, you only have to travel 8 times in a season. They only play once a week. The NBA, you could be at home on Sunday, and then Tuesday you're like, let's say New York, and then Tuesday you can be in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're forgetting
nightmare.
You're forgetting the right, as Nick said, the logistical nightmare that this whole thing causes, where you don't see. Major League Baseball is going to have this issue too, because Rob Manfred has come out and said they want to play 162 games, which, by the way, is the biggest load of BS. There's no way they're playing 162.
I think he only did that. I think he only did that to get the free agents to start to sign. I'm calling it right now.
But they're still not signing.
I didn't say it was going to be successful.
You got one free agent. You got one free agent.
Didn't mean it was going to work.
You got one. You got George Springer to sign. You still have Realmuto out there. You still have Bauer out there. Which, by the way, we don't have time to talk about Bauer. But did you see the music that dropped on Twitter? The link that I
trust any athlete music after Le'Veon Bell.
Oh,
no. Yes. So if you go to our Twitter,
it gave me 311 flashbacks.
If you go to our Twitter account at ETB Sports, I actually posted a link to the music. So if you want to see it, I posted it up there. So he was doing like rap and auto-tune music, and he put out like an album of music.
I was going to say, Nick, but at least 311 are actual musicians. This is not a major league pitcher trying to go into, and I'm sorry, Trevor Bauer is no Bernie Williams in terms of musical talent.
No. All right, we got to move on.
God, it hurts.
All right, guys, quickly, so we wrap this up, and I can get to my UFC stuff all day.
By the way, and we'll mention something that Tom is doing at the end, but let's get to the last topic.
All right, guys, Championship Sunday. Who's going to the Super Bowl? Which one of you two wants to start?
I was gonna make a bigger thing out of this if we didn't have Zig, but I'm going with Zig. I'm gonna go with Zig and say it's gonna be Chiefs and
Packers,
Green Bay,
Super Bowl. By
the way, probably the most anticipated matchup out of the whole playoffs. You're going to get the youngest versus the
oldest,
the experience, and the battle of State Farm.
I mean, there are so many storylines.
Whoever wins gets tested at Jake from State Farm.
Well, this is the thing. There are so many storylines that could go about these potential Super Bowls. The State Farm Bowl and a rematch of Super Bowl I. Allen versus Brady, the AFC East nightmare comes back to bite them. Mahomes versus Brady. You could have that again. You can have Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen, the young versus the old. All right, so here's my prediction. I am going to agree with Nick in that the Chiefs will defeat the Bills.
Oh. I think you're talking about
I'm going to go one by one. AFC title game, Chiefs over Bills. I think the Chiefs just have the experience and all that. As for the NFC, if it wasn't copyrighted, I would do what you did last year for Pat's Titans, Nick, and I would play the NFL primetime music. I'm going with upset. I think Brady will win in Lambeau. I am going to go with the Bucks.
Wow.
They are looking hot, even with AB, like Zig was saying. They still have Evans. They still have Godwin. Leonard Fournette has been doing pretty well in terms of a running back, and the defensive unit over there is just incredible. I think Rodgers, Green Bay hasn't made moves this season, which you have implied, Nick, during the conversation with Zig, may have frustrated him a little. Like they could have gone Fuller to be a supplement to Vontae Adams. Aaron Jones is the only running back there. I mean, they still have A.J. Dillon, which they drafted along with Jordan Love. I see all that falling apart. I see, for the third time in 5 years, Packers making it to the NFC title game and falling short. I'm going to go with Chiefs, Bucks making history and playing their home stadium, despite the fact they'll be the road team because the Chiefs have the better record.
Which is sick. That's ironic.
Right. But I'm going to go with a Mahomes-Brady rematch, this time in the Super Bowl.
So for me, the Chiefs are obviously number one. The Chiefs are obviously, they are the big monster, and I could see them possibly going to a three-peat. So
I would have said Bills if Mahomes was declared out, but with Mahomes there, you can't go against it.
So I'm taking the Chiefs. Now, obviously, the other matchup is the bigger of the two.
And you're the tiebreaker in that.
So Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Obviously, you can't dispute his playoff record, but at the same time, it's a different team. The Packers have been hot too. And like I think we all agreed, and I think I was the first one to make the statement that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the MVP.
MVP, yeah.
So I think Aaron Rodgers it's Lambeau. Lambeau is Lambeau. It's tough to win. Regardless whether there's fans or not, Lambeau is a tough place to win it on the road. So I'm taking the Packers, and I see Chiefs Packers.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, guys, we got a little thank you basically from Zig that basically saying, thanks to
we got a little shout. So follow him at Zig Fracassi on Twitter, all over the SiriusXM sports channels.
Yeah. All right. So before we go, guys, I will be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight to go over all the matchups for UFC 257, looking at the card and all the storylines coming in from that. And then immediately following the event, I don't know what time in the morning that's going to be here on the East Coast.
2 o'clock in the morning, if I remember.
2, 3, I don't know when. I will join for a little 10-15 minute post-show recap and all the action from that. So stay tuned.
And actually, we did good with those last year, I remember. So, we got a lot of following off of that. So,
all right. So, but that's going to do it for us for this week. So make sure to follow us all across the socials on ETB Sports. You see all our socials actually scrolling across the bottom there. So I'll wait for that to finish up. Okay, there we go. So for Nick Morgasen, Nick Fodera, I'm Tom Albano, and we will see you next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.